Because you're mine, I walk the line.
I feel like sitting like a drummer. Hey, what did you think of that movie, the drumming movie that was Whiplash? Did you see Whiplash, the Oscar? Nominated drumming?
I didn't.
You got to check that out. WS is here. He's for 40 years the one and only drummer for the legendary Johnny Cash. He's joining us in studio to tell us all about this event at the Fisher involving the Million Dollar Quartet.
Good to see you.
Good to see you, sir. How's it going?
Doing great. Doing great.
Tell us what's going on at the Fisher.
The Million Dollar Quartet.
And for those who don't know.
It all happened so accidentally. In 1956, December the 6th, maybe, 4th, Carl Perkins and his two brothers and I started in the business in 1954 at Sun Records. I'd never played. He asked me to go to Memphis with him to audition for a record session. I borrowed some drums and went. We went back later and recorded The Blue Suede Shoes, was a big hit. Then we was back in the studio in 56 to record the release after Blue Suede Shoes. Now, 55, here come all of the Sun group. Sam Phillips and Bob Neal had a booking agent booking all the Sun groups together. And in the middle of the session, we didn't even know John, and Elvis was in town. We'd played a lot together.
John being Johnny Cash.
Yeah. And the reason Jerry Lee was there, Sam hired him to play piano with us. In the middle of the session, John and Elvis just dropped by. Of course, they heard we were in town. We didn't know they was coming by. And everything just stopped, and Elvis sat down at the piano, and they just started singing songs. Nobody thought anything about it that night. Jack Clement, who was running the recorder, big reel-to-reel recorders,
yep,
he didn't think anything about it, so he wanted to go next door and get a sandwich, so he let the machine run.
Yeah, he said, you know, I better record this.
Yeah.
And he did.
Yeah. And Sam he did think to call a photographer and make the big famous picture.
Well, of course. I mean, if you're the guy with the studio, you want the pub, you know, the publicity, and the Memphis Sun, and yeah, exactly.
Well, I kidded Sam later after it became famous, after the guys became famous later. I said, man, Sam, if you'd have really been smart, you'd have had the camera pan over about 3 feet, I would have been in it, then it would have been famous.
You were on drums for this session.
Yeah.
Kind of a fluke, but you were there.
I was there.
These guys all, of course, went on to fame and fortune. Now, there was some discrepancy about, you know, you were with Johnny Cash for all those years. He wrote in his autobiography that he was there from start to finish, and then other people have sort of contradicted that story about whether he was there at all, and if he was, did he just show up at the end? I mean, what can you tell us about Johnny Cash being there?
First of all, I've read so many biographies that I don't know how they get the material. But we'd all met the year before, and we toured together around. And at some point in the session, John and Elvis walked in. He wasn't there when we started,
Gotcha.
And he didn't stay till it was over. After they did sit and sang some songs, and we didn't really know what they were going to do next. And there's one thing I do remember. It was really strange because Elvis said to Jerry Lee, he said, Jerry Lee, get up, let me sit down and show you a few hot licks on the piano. If you notice,
he said that to Jerry Lewis?
Yeah, the picture.
That's how he ended up at the piano.
There. But see, nobody was a big star that night. I do, like now, somebody like you asked me, what was it like to be in that studio with all of the big stars? I said, hey, there were no big stars there. Later, they became big stars. I didn't know a drummer couldn't be a big star that night. The thing I was concerned about most of all, it was the time that Sam Phillips was having to keep time and pay union scale for a session. Union scale was $11. So that's what I was concerned about. Then after that's when I met John Cash. It was in 1960 when I was going to retire. I figured I'd done all I would ever do. Played on the Million Dollar Quartet session, been in a movie. Just about then I was going to retire.
No, you have many more years of touring.
I was driving around Jackson with a big Cadillac, 3 payments behind. I met Joyce. She finally talked me into marrying her. And then I met Johnny Cash and went to work with him.
Now, we're out of time, but I want to ask you that the famous photo of Johnny Cash where he's extending his middle finger to the camera, angry or in jest, what was his mood on that photo? Because there's some discrepancy over whether he was doing that as a defiant thing or whether he was just being playful.
That was the part of Johnny Cash that I wished everybody could have been around him all those years. And no, he was just cutting up and having fun.
Just having fun.
Didn't have any idea it would be as famous as it is.
W.S. Holland, it's been a pleasure having you here today.
Here's what I got to say. All these 60 years, of all the things that's happened, the greatest thing and the most fun happened when I met a fellow named Marty Davis with Cambria, who has a big factory up in Minnesota that builds kitchen cabinets. And I'm going all over the country now, as much as I ever did besides playing, telling all the ladies, if you don't have a Cambria kitchen, it's not as pretty as it can be.
Rick, where's the cha-ching sound effect? That was a well-executed plug, W.S. For ticket information, visit milliondollarquartetlive.com. I think we'll put a link on our website, My Fox Detroit.
Let me tell you one thing about it right quick. They almost didn't get it all together. Are you going to go to it?
I'd like to go to it. I have to check my schedule to make sure. I got a 4-year-old at home,
here's
so I got
the
to figure it out.
problem they have. They find people to do John, Elvis, Jelly, and Carl. They have a hard time finding a drummer that's pretty as I was in 1956.
That's good. That's, as Devo would say, that's good. Thank you so much for being here, W.S.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Amy, over to you.